Venezuela's Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, defended the policy of sovereignty over the country's energy resources and denounced the United States' plans to control Venezuelan oil. The Honduran Armed Forces has already distributed 96% of election materials ahead of the November 30th elections. And the Peruvian court sentenced former President Martín Vizcarra Cornejo to 14 years in prison for corruption. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuela's Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, defended the policy of sovereignty over the country's energy resources and denounced the United States' plans to control Venezuelan oil. Rodriguez stated that any country interested in Venezuelan oil must pay the prices set by the international market within the framework of cooperation and respect for sovereignty. The official also denounced that the historical objective of the United States has been to control the country's energy reserves with the support of extremist sectors of the opposition, which have entered into false agreements in order to hand over the nation's natural resources. Finally, the Venezuelan Vice President urged young people to become the guardians of the future of the country's oil policy.
Porque es importante conocer la historia para entender que lo que está ocurriendo hoy no es un plan.
They realize that it is important to know history in order to understand what is happening today. This is not a plan for this year. The United States has always had in its strategic objectives to take Venezuela's energy reserves, to take them, and to do so they have used political classes of dictators. You could say that the leader of extremism in Venezuela is the Juan Vicente Gómez of this era, who wants to hand over all our energy resources, hand them over. She has already agreed to it. That is known, that is public knowledge. I'm not making this up. The delivery of oil, gas, and Essequibo has already been paid for. You have to know the history well to understand that you are going to be the guardians of the future of our oil policy.
And we stay in Venezuela. The United Socialist Party of Venezuela announced Wednesday the creation of what are known as the Integral Bolivarian Community Commands as part of the new structure of the party's grassroots organization. According to the party Secretary General de Estado Cabello, the initiative aims to enable the defense of the country in circumstances that warrant it. Cabello emphasized that the formation of the commands will begin this Thursday in a process similar to the election of the Bolivarian Integral Base Committees, with the direct participation of the heads of the Hugo Chavez Battle Units, or UBCH. Cabello urged the population to join the party in the face of the current threats and reminded them that Washington's objective is to take over the country's natural resources under the excuse of the fight against drug trafficking.
Bueno, el artículo 2, correcto. El artículo 2, pues tenemos un reglamento, nosotros aquí todo lo hacemos de acuerdo a una metodología.
And the Public Prosecutor's Office of Venezuela condemned the extrajudicial killings committed by the U.S. government in the Caribbean and Pacific Seas, while offering a balance of the actions of the Public Prosecutor's Office on its 56th anniversary. Attorney General Tarek William Saab assured that a public and widely reported fact that illicit substances do not pass through the Bolivarian nation. Moreover, he highlighted Venezuela continues its fight against drug trafficking and holds the record for the most cases prosecuted in relation to this activity in the world. In this context, the Attorney General further condemned the extrajudicial killings by the United States government in the Caribbean and Pacific Seas, reiterating they constitute a violation of international law.
Por lo tanto, es un día particular.
Therefore, it is a special day, in a special year, and also a special year of relentless attacks that the people have fortunately resisted, and the President of the Republic, Nicolas Maduro, has said that we resist and are prepared for any scenario, but the first is dialogue, peace, and peaceful coexistence for the good of all Venezuelans. In that context, we are celebrating this 56th anniversary.
Also, Venezuela's Attorney General reiterated that the Bolivarian nation is relentlessly fighting drug trafficking and is not among the Latin American nations from where almost 100% of drugs go to the United States.
Igualmente el tema del consumo de droga. Imposible. Venezuela lucha contra el tráfico de droga.
Likewise, with the issue of drug consumption, that's impossible. Venezuela is relentless fighting drug trafficking. This is one of the countries in the world with the highest record of prosecuting, punishing, accusing and convicting people who traffic drugs. It has also been proven that almost 100%, pay attention, 100% of the drugs that leave Latin America for the United States and the rest of the world come from the Pacific coast. I will mention the countries, nothing to do with Venezuela, they are Argentina, Ecuador, Peru, Paraguay, Brazil, particularly through the Parana River, nothing to do with Venezuela, less than 5% of that drug passed through the Colombian Guajira, seeking its transit to Venezuela, and they have been punished in the most severe manner by judicial and police cooperation, particularly with countries such as France, the Netherlands, and Colombia, among others.
Particularmente con países como Francia, Holanda, Colombia, entre otros.
On Wednesday, also, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro met in Caracas with Japanese architect Riken Yamamoto, who was in the city attending the First World Symposium on Neighborhoods. At the gathering, the head of state expressed his gratitude for the proposals made by the architect and his team to strengthen the community movement in Venezuelan neighborhoods. For his part, the Japanese architect, who was awarded the prestigious Pritzker Architecture Prize in 2024, highlighted the success of the urban model in Bolivarian territory and expressed his interest in collaborating to improve the well-being of the neighborhoods. In addition, Yamamoto remarked that the urban and community development project promoted by Venezuela is an example for the world. And now we have a short break coming up, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Honduran Armed Forces has already distributed 96% of election materials ahead of the November 30th elections. In this regard, the organization announced that the material and equipment were delivered to 13 departments across the country, including Santa Barbara and Choluteca. The military agency stated that there are protection measures in place for the transport of election materials and that each one has security capsules provided by the Special Operation Team. And President Xiomara Castro assured that Honduras will hold free, transparent general elections backed by the sovereign will of the people. Her government's commitment to democratic principles and institutionality. The head of state emphasized the guarantees that her government maintains regarding next Sunday's elections, which also coincided with the defense of the conduct of the electoral process before international organizations. Xiomara Castro, in this context, underlined that after 16 years, Honduras has been eligible for the Millennium Account, a United Nations program that provides funds and support to development and developing countries that meet strict criteria for transparency, anti-corruption, human rights, and economic management. And in this context, just days before the presidential elections in Honduras, released audio recordings link key figures of Honduran political and business scene with an electoral scandal. On Tuesday, local media circulated 7 of the leaked audio recordings that bring to light an electoral plot to secure the appointment of the presidential candidate for the Liberal Party, Salvador Nasrallah, as president in the upcoming Sunday elections. The audio reveals conversations between business leaders, a magistrate of the Electoral Tribunal, a presidential candidate, an electoral official, and the head of the National Party's congressional bloc, as well as other people whose identities remain unconfirmed. In this context, as we were informing, in Honduras, an election scandal unfolds after the leak of 7 audio recordings that compromise key figures in the National Party, including Councilor Cosette Lopez and party leader Tomás Zambrano.
A mí me interesa las cosas que
I am only interested in things that benefit me, and especially my daughter. That is what interests me. It seems to me that you are more interested in getting out of the business and saying yes, no. Things take time. As I told you, you can't do anything with 3 million lempiras, nothing. Then putting more. I don't know where you can get it, but if you can boast and increase it to 7, then we could talk about it, but 3 million pesos is no use to me. I can't even pay for the car with that.
No sé cómo yo voy a justificar la salida de ese dinero.
But I don't know how I'm going to justify that money going out. You're saying 7 million, when we're already over 5. Sorry, 3, which is what's possible. No. You tell me exactly what you want and I'll solve it. Or let your friend, the former mayor of San Pedro, help you because he has the power to do that.
We have found out what happened to your phone. We already have a report, but we do not recommend making that report public because what it would give us, well, I'm giving you this advice because there is an intervention and it is true, and everything you said would be discredited if you made a statement with that report. I don't know if you want me to shred it or if we should talk in person again, because all you sent me was the phone number and you log in on another phone. So we didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve, which was a complete analysis.
Now we go to Mexico. During her daily morning press conference, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum discussed her Tuesday meeting with Honduran President Xiomara Castro, highlighting the gratitude expressed by the head of state for Mexico's support during her administration.
She came, among other things, to thank the support that Mexico has given her during her administration. Remember that there is the Planting Life program, which will now have a second stage. Young People Building the Future, which was a vision of cooperation for development. The best way to prevent immigration is by investing and supporting people in their places of origin. Agreements were signed with Pemex and the General Electricity Commission. So she came to express her gratitude. And we appreciate her gratitude. They have an election on Sunday in Honduras. So she was very interested in letting us know that it is very important to respect the will of the Honduran people. There should be no interference or intervention from anyone.
Now we move on to other topics. A Peruvian court sentenced former President Martín Vizcarra Cornejo to 14 years in prison after finding him guilty of taking bribes during his term as governor of the southern region of Moquegua between 2011 and 2014. According to the verdict, Vizcarra accepted bribes equivalent to $676,000 from construction firms in exchange for public works contracts. The former president denied the charges, claiming he was a victim of political persecution. The sentence includes a 9-year disqualification from holding any public office, a fine of an equivalent of over $28,000, and the payment of almost $700,000 in civil damages. The court ruled that the sentence is effective and immediately enforceable and ordered his arrest and imprisonment in a penitentiary penitentiary, regardless of any appeal filed by his defense team. Meanwhile, in the United States, 2 West Virginia National Guard members were killed on Wednesday in a shooting near the White House in Washington, D.C. The incident took place near the Farragut West Metro Station and comes amid a controversial deployment of troops to the U.S. Capitol, ordered by the Trump administration. According to police sources, 2 National Guardsmen engaged in gunfire with a suspected shooter prior to being shot. The suspect was reportedly detained and transported away from the scene on a stretcher, and the White House and office buildings in the area were also reportedly put under lockdown, with workers told to leave the rear door if they wished to leave the premises. The shooting questions security of military operations in Washington, where more than 2,300 troops have proven ineffective in containing the violence. In other topics, the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines prepare for general elections on November 27th, while the main candidates carry out their electoral campaigns. Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves is running for re-election, and polls show that he has a dominant lead of almost 70% over opposition leader Godwin Friday. During his campaign act, Gonsalves invited Jamaican artist Bob Kahn to attract younger audiences to his party, action that was imitated by his rival, who received harsh criticisms on social networks. If Gonsalves' coalition wins, the Unity Labour Party would be heading for its 6th consecutive term. And we have a second short break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. In Guinea-Bissau, army officers seized control of the country on Wednesday after the November 23rd presidential elections. Military officers from the West African nation appeared on state television, saying they had suspended the electoral process, closed borders, and will be in charge until further notice. In this context, President Umaru Sissoco confirmed his arrest along with other senior officials, including the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, and described the action as a coup d'etat led by the army commander. The uprising comes after Sunday's presidential elections, before results could be unveiled next Thursday. In this scenario, clashes near the Electoral Commission have been reported in the capital, Bissau. And the Democratic Republic of the Congo will launch a vaccination campaign against rubella and measles to protect children aged 6 months to 14 years old. The President Felix Tshisekedi welcomed a delegation from the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization to launch the vaccination campaign that will benefit more than 17 million Congolese children. And the measles and rubella vaccination campaign will also be running from November 27th to December 1st, 2025 in various provinces of the country. In this context, the Democratic Republic of the Congo will also hold a polio vaccination week, joining forces to strengthen immunity, prevent epidemics, and also provide reliable and accessible protection to every child. The Gaza Ministry of Interior denounced that Israeli forces killed more than 1,100 Palestinian civilians near distribution points of the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The government body informed that the victims include 225 children and 884 adults, of which 32 are elderly people. The ministry also announced that 2,600 Palestinians were killed and 19,000 were injured between the end of May and the beginning of October. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is a U.S. organization comprising former military personnel and private security companies. Also, Palestinian journalists condemned the Israeli Supreme Court's ruling to once again delay the entry of international media into the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Center for the Protection of Journalists indicated that since the petition was filed in September 2024, the Israeli regime has violated international law and freedom of the press by delaying access for foreign media. The Palestinian body points out that the entry of journalists into the enclave is essential to cover and show the humanitarian situation experienced by Gazans. On the other hand, the Israeli Supreme Court decided to grant the Tel Aviv government a 10-day extension to deliberate on the entry of journalists. The session will take place on December 4th. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also, we invite you to join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. And for Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.